Hello and welcome to the history of Stargate. Today's episode, we're going to do an overview of Stargate The Ark of Truth. And here we go. Stargate The Ark of Truth is a direct-to-DVD movie written and directed by Robert C. Cooper. The film is the conclusion of the Stargate SG-1 Ori arc and picks up after the SG-1 series finale, but takes place before the fourth season of Stargate Atlantis. The Ark of Truth was released as a Region 1 DVD on March 11, 2008. British Sky 1 broadcasted the film on March 24, 2008, followed by a Region 2 DVD released on April 14, 2008, with the Region 4 DVD release on April 9, 2008. Several million years ago, in the Alteran home galaxy on another planet, a group of ancients were discussing how big a threat the Ori had become, and how they could wipe the ancients out. They decide to use a device known as the Ark of Truth. One ancient decides to use a device known as the Ark of Truth. However, the other ancients don't want to use a weapon of indoctrination against the Ori, and an order is passed never to open the Ark. Instead, they decide to leave their galaxy to find another home. In the present day, SG-1 are shifting through the ruins of Dakara, where Dr. Daniel Jackson, Teal'c, and Vala Maldoran uncover a box from underground. They attempt to open it, but it is sealed shut. Jackson warns the others not to force it open, as the box is supposedly very powerful. They plan to open the box carefully, but are interrupted by Lieutenant Colonel Cameron Mitchell on the radio, who informs them that the Ori soldiers have made it to Dakara. Despite putting up a good effort, Mitchell and his colleagues, fellow Lieutenant Colonel Samantha Carter, are overrun by the approaching soldiers. They retreat to where Jackson, Teal'c, and Vala are, but are surrounded. The leader of the army is Tolman, who warns Vala that if they don't surrender, the Ori warship will open fire on them. SG-1 surrenders and allows Tolman to come in. Tolman and his troops are joined by a prior, who is curious about the box. Jackson tells him that it is a weapon capable of defeating the Ori and tricks him into opening the box. However, when the box is opened, all they find is a rolled scroll, which crumbles to dust when Tolman picks it up. The prior orders Tolman to kill them. However, the team tells him not to, as the prior is actually forcing him to do it, because for some reason beyond his comprehension, he is powerless. The frustrated prior tries to snatch Tolman's Ori staff weapon. However, Mitchell grabs one from another soldier and shoots the prior, which kills him. After that, the soldiers quickly surrender themselves as Carter shows them that the prior's powers were actually blocked by the prior disruptor. Back on Earth, Mitchell informs Major General Henry Landry that Tolman says a new waves of ships will arrive through the Supergate very soon. When they enter the general's office, Landry and Mitchell meet James Marek, an International Oversight Advisory representative, due to the fact that Woolsey is now spending more time with the Atlantis expedition. Marek reveals that he is sent to interrogate Tolman, despite Mitchell protesting that he is a guest, not a prisoner. Meanwhile, Tolman is in a room with Vala and Daniel. Jackson explains that the Sangreal sent months ago has supposedly wiped out the Ascended Ori, and that he has received several visions from Merlin about the location of the Ark of Truth. Tolman suggests that the place in the visions is Ortis Malum from the Book of Origin, as it sounds like the place in Daniel's vision. Marek starts his interrogation on Tolman. Marek angrily demands to know how many people were killed, simply because they chose not to worship the Ori. In the observation room, Teal'c tells Daniel that Vala didn't come to see the interrogation. It was too much for her to take, since he is her husband and she still feels for him. Back in the briefing room, Carter explains that since activating the Supergate the last time by chance, she plans to destroy the gate by placing 4 Mark 9s in key areas to prevent the Ori from getting through it. However, Jackson has a revelation and urges them not to destroy it, as he believes the Ark is actually still in the Alteran home galaxy. The IOA later approves the mission to go through the Supergate, and Mitchell is to be in command of the Odyssey. But in a slight snag, Marek is to come with them on the mission. The Odyssey arrives at the Supergate and dials it to the Alteran home galaxy. Once through, Vala, Daniel, and Tolman head to the planet. While waiting to meet Hertis, a member of the Anti-Ori Underground, Daniel has a vision of Merlin, which gives him the feeling that they are on the right track. Hertis arrives and he points them to a location known as Ortis Malum, a mountain on the Celestis, the birthplace of evil. SG-1 is given directions to the planet. They exit hyperspace and cloak above Celestis. SG-1 and Tolman are beamed down to Ortis Malum to search the forest where the village once was in hopes of finding the Ark. Meanwhile, Marek finds access to a restricted area on board the Odyssey, the location of the Asgard computer core. He activates it and replaces a crystal, and then works on something. Major Kevin Marks has detected the activity and contacts Mitchell. He and Carter get beamed aboard whilst Tolman, Vala, and Daniel continue digging out a passage Daniel discovered, with help from another vision from Merlin. Back on Earth, Colonel Albert Reynolds of SG-3 reports to Landry from P6X437 that a prior wishes to see Landry. He proposes that he be allowed to spread the word of origin to the people of Earth, saying that it is their last hope. Landry says that there isn't even a chance that Earth will listen and refuses his proposal, holding the Prior with the Prior Disruptor. The Prior says he is without reason and that his world will burn. Landry retorts that if they're going to hell, they're taking him with him. Back on the Odyssey, Mitchell and Carter break into the computer control room and apprehend Marek. They attempt to shut down the computer core, but they can't. The core is alerting every Ori mothership to the Odyssey's location. Carter finds out that the core is creating something, which they will soon see is a replicator. Marek explains the true mission. The IOA intended to plant it on an Ori ship and let it spread to their entire fleet. The IOA felt that in the event that the Supergate couldn't be destroyed, an alternative plan of action was required. Once the Ori fleet is destroyed by the replicators, the IOA will initiate a shutdown program. They didn't expect SG-1 to find the Ark. As a newly created replicator hangs in the force field, Mitchell calls in an anti-replicator gun to destroy it. However, these replicators are immune to ARG technology, thanks to the IOA tampering, and is now loose on the ship. Carter wants to know who reprogrammed the replicator, but Marek refuses to answer. An angry Mitchell takes Marek to the brig. Jackson, Teal'c, Vala, and Tolman find an underground corridor to a room. They are about to be beamed up to the Odyssey, however, the replicators have taken control of several systems, including beaming. The team, however, has time to find the Ark. They blow a hole through the door and find the Ark, then head back out into the open before the tunnel collapses. Back outside, Vala, Daniel, and Tolman examine the device, and Teal'c attempts to contact the Odyssey, but gets shot in the back and falls to the ground. The rest of them engage the Ori soldiers. 4 warships arrive near the Odyssey. Fortunately, the hyperdrive is still operational and they escape the clutches of the ships. Meanwhile, Mitchell manages to destroy the replicator, but discovers the original has already been turned into a queen and the replicators are replicating. Carter runs a search through the Asgard core for a shutdown code, while simultaneously attempting to make one from scratch. A team is called to close off the room from the replicators. In the brig, Marek hears replicators cutting through the walls. He desperately calls someone to let him out, not realizing no one is there. The replicators later violently attack him. At night on Celestis, Teal'c awakens and sees nothing but dead Ori soldiers. He sees no sign of Jackson, Vala, and Tolman, because they were taken to the city of Celestis, to be tortured by the Dosai and the other priors. Teal'c slowly gets up and treks through the mountain ranges, finally making it to the plains of Celestis, before collapsing. Back on the Odyssey, Mitchell finds the Queen, who is feeding off the power from a power conduit to replicate. He plans to destroy it. He plants a C4 charge near the Queen to detonate as a distraction, to buy time so Carter can figure out a way to shut down the replicators. Mitchell later turns around to see Marek, who is now being controlled by replicators. He attempts to kill him, however, he is physically augmented and easily throws Mitchell across the room. Back in the city of Celestis, Vala enters a room and discovers that the Ori are still around. However, the ascended being turns out to be Adria. She informs her that the Sand Grail did work on the Ori and are now indeed gone. Now that Adria has ascended, she gets control of all of the Ori's forces and powers. As Adria leaves, Vala sees that some of the buttons on the Ark are glowing. On the plains of Celestis, an ascended being comes to bring Teal'c back to life. He gets up and proceeds to the city. Daniel is inside a cell, laying on the floor. Merlin tells him not to give up. However, Daniel calls his bluff, realizing that Merlin died, not ascended. He is actually Morgan Le Fay, who was exiled after trying to help them in Atlantis a year ago. Daniel urges her to help, but she tells him that Adria is too powerful. At the moment, she had done all she could. She tells him that if he can turn one prior, the others will be turned, because they are all linked by the crystals in their staffs. This will weaken Adria enough so that Morgan will be able to defeat her. Daniel begs her for more help, but she says she has done all she can and disappears. A prior approaches the cell, then pulls back his hood to reveal himself as Teal'c, come to free Daniel. Back at the SGC, Colonel Abraham Ellis on the new ship Apollo informs Landry that they have detected Ori ships arriving in the solar system, but they have not yet advanced on Earth. Landry orders him to try to hold them off if they do advance. On the Odyssey, the replicators have taken over the hyperdrive and shut it down. Soon, Ori ships circle the Odyssey and start attacking it. Replicators try to break into the control room. Carter tells Mitchell to detonate the C4. However, he is too busy fighting replicator-controlled Marek. Mitchell eventually manages to disconnect one of the replicator legs to Marek's head. Marek tells Mitchell that the self-destruct code is on the back of the crystal Marek uploaded into the core. The seriously injured Mitchell then detonates the C4 as a distraction, but is knocked to the floor. Mitchell informs Carter of the shutdown, and she activates it just before being overrun. Mitchell limps to the bridge to surrender. However, the Ori ships disregard the surrender and continue attacking until they deplete the Odyssey's shields, leaving them completely vulnerable. Vala tells Daniel about the 7 glowing symbols, and Daniel tries to figure out the code to activate the Ark of Truth, but they are interrupted by the Dosai and Adria. Daniel activates the Ark, remarking that the code is ironically the ancient word for origin. Teal'c shoots the leg off the table, opening the activated Ark, and catching the Dosai in the beam, causing him to renounce the Ori, and realizing that they are not gods. Through the link, all the priors in the Ori galaxy are turned, and they stop the attack on the Odyssey just before the shields fail, and it is destroyed. In Adria's severely weakened state, Morgan is able to engage Adria in either an eternal battle similar to Oma Dasala's eternal battle with Anubis, or simply destroy her. In pure energy form, they float together through the ceiling. With the Ori in the galaxy defeated, they return to Earth and expose the prior being held at Stargate Command to the Ark, transmitting the knowledge about the Ori to all other priors in the Milky Way, and thus turning all known priors in the universe. Jackson learns that the Ark is being stored in Area 51, despite his warnings that the Ark is very dangerous. Meanwhile, an injured Mitchell is in the Stargate Command infirmary, where Carter drops in telling him that when he recovers, the IOA wants to meet with him to apologize for Marek's actions. She also drops off a bag of macaroon, which she said she had baked for him. Tolman is to return to his home as leader of the Ori forces. He tells Vala that when he was being tortured, it was thinking of the stories in the Book of Origin that comforted him. She says that the book holds a lot of truth, which is why it was such a powerful lure. But as leader, he should throw out the bad bits, starting with the part about burning people alive. He agrees. He wants her to come with him, but knows she won't. Later, SG-1 walks into the embarkment room, where Mitchell finds it odd that they will have no big bad guy to fight against anymore. Carter tells him that they felt that way after the Goa'uld were defeated, and the replicators. Jackson says there's still more planets to explore, and Vala adds there's still more treasure to find. They then prepare for a mission to P3K546. Hey, thank you for watching the History of Stargate. Special thanks to the Stargate Wiki and all contributors for all information you've heard today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you can. If you have, thank you. And have a nice day. Bye-bye.